With 25 days until the presidential election, the Obama re-election campaign is seizing on this statement by Paul Ryan in last night's debate.
If the Romney-Ryan ticket is elected, should those who believe that abortion should remain legal be worried?
We don't think that unelected judges should make this decision, that people through their elected representatives and reaching a consensus in society through the democratic process should make this determination.
Joe Biden used that statement by Paul Ryan to remind voters about the #1 reason for voting for president.
If anyone had a doubt about what's at stake in this election when it comes to women's rights and the Supreme Court, I'm sure they were settled last night. Congressman Ryan made it very clear that he and Governor Romney are prepared to impose their private views on everyone else. It was made clear last night that they don't believe in protecting a woman's access to health care. It was made very clear that they do not believe a woman has a right to control her own body. The next president is likely to have almost surely have one and probably two Supreme Court appointees. Roe v. Wade is hanging. The single most consequential decision a president makes other than going to war is the appointment of the Supreme Court, because those appointments live on long after any president's gone.
More than 51 million people watched last night's vice presidential debate. A post-debate poll released this afternoon from Reuters Ipsos found that 42% thought Joe Biden won the debate, 35% said Paul Ryan, and 23% were not sure. Rush Limbaugh is sure. He knows exactly who to blame for those poll results showing Joe Biden winning.
I told you Raddatz was going to behave as she did. It was in the cards. It was predictable. Ryan knew it. It isn't an excuse. You can get mad and you can say it was unfair, but believe me, everybody else saw that it was unfair. Everybody else saw that it was rude. Everybody else saw this as a stacked deck. Some of you might wish that Ryan would have been feistier and not let them run all over him and all that. My guess is that he doesn't debate much. Might have been under orders. Look, just get through this thing. Let Biden be who we know he's going to be. And realize you're in a two it against one situation.
Tonight, Nate Silver of the New York Times 538 blog forecasts that on November 6th, President Obama will win 283 Electoral College votes and Mitt Romney will win 255. And President Obama has a 61% chance of winning the election. Joining me now are Ezra Klein and Crystal Ball. Crystal, Rush's job, you see, is to counsel the depressed after last night's debate. What do you make of his Raddatz, the unfair referee argument? I'm having trouble thinking of exactly where she jumped in there to help Joe Biden.
Well, and here's the other thing. The winning team doesn't complain about the refs, right? I mean, he actually seemed to me a little bit dispirited in that clip that you just played. And I think not only do conservatives feel like Ryan wasn't aggressive enough, that he didn't push the point enough, but they really expected him to wipe the floor with Joe Biden. They have elevated him so far in their mind that they thought it was just going to be a gimme. There was no way Biden could compete. So I think they are feeling a little dispirited today, not only because of the implications for the Romney-Ryan ticket, but for Ryan himself, who many hoped that he would be the future in 2016 or 2020 for the Republican Party.
Ezra, you know Paul Ryan, and you know that Paul Ryan's experience in the House does not include free-form debating. Unlike in the United States Senate, they actually have real debates on the floor, and things go back and forth without moderators, and it's real. But in the House, it's this Soviet institution where one side never really has to talk to the other side or take any real challenges from the other side.
Yeah, and, you know, I'll say I'll go a little bit against consistency here. I thought Ryan did, for Ryan, a fairly good job. I thought he got his points in. I thought he stood up, and if you agreed with him, you probably thought he won the debate. The problem was Joe Biden's a really good debater. I mean, he's been a 6-term U.S. Senator. He was the 6th youngest U.S. Senator ever elected to the body. He was named vice president in 2008, largely on the strength of his debating performances. It isn't like he had won a bunch of primaries. And yet there's a funny thing that happens with Joe Biden in between between, where people sort of got this kind of onion-inflected impression of him as a guy washing his Trans Am in the parking lot of the White House. Then he comes out, and what Biden is particularly good at, and what Brian is particularly unable to counter, is Biden wields authority well. I've known Bibi for 35 years. Our wives are best friends.
Yeah.
I was in the room. And that, for a guy who looks even younger than he is, like Ryan, was devastating.
Let's listen to Joe Biden talking about Romney's 47%.
These are the folks who talk about 47% of the American people being unwilling to take responsibility. 82% of them pay their payroll taxes and other taxes, and at an effective rate higher than Romney pays his taxes. Over 10% of them are senior citizens on Social Security. The rest are disabled vets and veterans fighting and military personnel fighting now. That's the 47%. The 47% this nation depends on to build this country. Folks, it's about time Governor Romney takes some responsibility. Take some responsibility to help the American people, the middle class. Instead of lining up to sign a pledge to a guy named Grover Norquist.
Ezra, I got to say, for me, one of my favorite moments in the debate was him pointing out the effective rate Romney pays compared to what other people in the real world pay. I'm not sure how many people jumped on that as their favorite little moment, but
you and me, Lawrence.
But Biden is finding more effective ways of isolating that Romney tax return 14% number.
And it wasn't just that. Biden, I thought, actually figured out what Obama didn't figure out a week before, which is how to deal with the Ryan Romney ticket on taxes and on Medicare and on Social Security, which is the strategy thus far has been to kind of trap you in thickets of ambiguity. Well, you can't say it's $5 trillion because we haven't told you how we'll pay for it. You can't say what we'll do on Medicare because we haven't told you how quickly the voucher will grow. What Biden just said over and over again was these guys have a voucher plan. Ryan has supported privatization plans. This is the Republican Party. And who do you trust? And he did a very good job, even as he did get into details, like on the tax rate, of when it began to get too weedy, stepping back out and saying, just before you kind of tune out, America, just think about the choice you're being offered here. These are not equal parties with equal histories on it. And the fact that Paul Ryan says that his plan, his Medicare plan from 2012 is a lot more modern than his Medicare plan from 2011, he's still the guy with a plan in 2011 that dissolved traditional fee-for-service public Medicare and replaced it with entirely private plans.
My favorite 20th century reply by Ryan about the voucher was saying, a voucher is a piece of paper that you get in your mailbox.
Right.
Oh, yeah?
A true fact.
I get vouchers for discounts at stores every day in my email, and there's no piece of paper involved.
Finally, he explained the difference between the voucher and premium support.
Keep the Postal Service alive.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Attempt to do that. Crystal, the 47% seems to be Biden's business. He seems to be the one that goes after that very effectively. It seems to me there's a special opportunity in the Romney 14% of income tax for the president in his debates to simply say on this deduction side of the Romney tax idea, which they refuse to specify, Governor Romney, tell me the biggest tax deduction on your tax return that you are willing to eliminate in order to fund your tax cut.
That would be...
I mean, this guy is using the biggest deductions that exist in the code.
That's right. I mean, that would be devastating because obviously he can't answer the carried interest deduction, which is one of them, or changing the capital gains rate, which is the other one. I mean, that would be a devastating question. And the thing that I think that the president and Biden have done very well with 47% is when those comments first came out, a lot of people said, you know what, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal because a lot of folks don't think they're in that 47%. They do look down and think that those are a bunch of moochers. The president and the vice president have made it very real who they're talking about in those 47%, that is your mother, your grandmother, your neighbors, people who serve in our military. So I think they've done an excellent job at humanizing that.
Last time I saw you was at 2 p.m. at LaGuardia Airport when we landed from Kentucky. And as I understand it, you do a live show here at 3 p.m. in this building.
That happens.
Did you show up at 3 p.m.
I was
for that
here.
show? Wow.
I was here. I was prepared. I had makeup on.
Did makeup
hair
in the car? Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. Crystal Ball and Ezra Klein, thank you both for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Coming up, Howard Dean and Sister Simone Campbell will join me on Mitt Romney's latest statements about just how easy it is to stay healthy without health insurance. And in the rewrite tonight, what the West Wing taught the Presidential Debate Commission about how we need to rewrite the rules of presidential debates. And later, the Borat of the Iowa caucuses, an actress who tricked the Republican presidential candidates into sharing some very real moments with her. That's coming up.